there, very good evening and a warm welcome to the news live on Rupavahini Channel I. I'm Sharon Mascarenhas.
A very good evening indeed, and I'm Kasum Segera. First, we take a look at the headlines for today. Tributes to those who are committed in health services on this International Nurses Day. President said that the plantation sector can extend an immense contribution to build the economy of the country by entering into a targeted program. Another 23 COVID-19 patients have recovered from the disease. A new circular on the manner to conduct and maintain school premises to prevent the spread of COVID-19. An Indian website indicates that Sri Lanka has taken the lead in the South Asian region in response preparedness to prevent the spread of COVID-19 disease. New Zealand announced that the national elections will not be postponed. Well, today marks the International Nurses Day. The theme of the day has been titled as Nurses, a Voice to Lead, Nursing the World to Health. The entire world, including Sri Lanka, celebrates this year International Nurses Day at a time when nurses across the globe are carrying out their duties in a remarkable manner amid the coronavirus pandemic situation. International Nurses Day is an internationally observed day across the world on 12th May, the anniversary of Florence Nightingale's birthday of each year to mark the contribution made by nurses to the society. Born on the 12th of May 1820, Lady Florence Nightingale tended to the wounds and injuries of the British soldiers fighting in the Crimean War in March 1854. She is regarded as the founder of modern nursing service. The International Council of Nurses has celebrated the day since 1965. Sri Lanka has been successful in controlling the spread of COVID-19 when other countries in the world have been overwhelmed by the disease. Nursing services in the country has been one of the key contributing factors for this achievement, as their dedication and commitment to tend the treatment of the patients depict their firm self-confidence. Sri Lanka celebrates International Nurses Day in a grand manner each year. However, main ceremony to celebrate the day was not organized today due to the COVID-19 spread. Meanwhile, 3 separate ceremonies were organized in Norele District Hospital, Abhayarame in Narahampita, and Infectious Disease Hospital in Angada. Addressing the ceremony organized to celebrate the International Nurses Day, Minister Pavitra Vanniyarachi said that the government completely appreciates the dedication, fearlessness and the commitment shown by the medical and nursing staff in the face of the spread of COVID-19. She said that during one of her visits to the IDH hospital, the physicians and the nursing staff tended to the treatments of the COVID-19 patients without any fear while endangering their own lives. The minister said that the nursing and other related officials have informed her that they have kept aside their private lives and distanced their loved ones in order to fulfill their responsibility. However, she said that they were not satisfied with the facilities in the dormitories of the nurses. Accordingly, she said that with the mediation of retired General Dayarat Nayak, a modern dormitory building was constructed with all necessary facilities within 2 weeks. However, she said that certain shops have rejected to provide services to them when they had visited these shops to purchase necessary commodities.
"200 Nurses Day is a momentous day for all the nurses, nationally and internationally. According to WHO, 2020 is the year for nurses and midwives. We are proud to be nurses. As International Council of Nursing, the theme of this year is Nurse, a Voice to Lead, Nursing the World to Health. During this COVID-19 pandemic situation, nurses have to play a vital role. We as nurses very much proud to work with all the people who are in need."
The International Nurses Day ceremony at Abhayarame in Narahampita was organized while following the health instructions. The ceremony was commenced by extending tributes to the statue of Lady Florence Nightingale. Minister Bandula Gunawardena, Venerable Muruthettuwe Ananda Thera, Venerable Professor Induragare Dhammaratna Thera, and Secretary to the Ministry of Health, Major General Sanjeeva Munasinghe. Another ceremony was held at the Angod Infectious Diseases Hospital premises. IDH Hospital became one of the busiest hospitals in the country with the spread of COVID-19 in the country. The staff of the hospital are engaged in their services with firm commitment and dedication.
You're watching the news on Rupavahini and we're still on local news. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that the plantation sector can render an immense contribution to build the economy of the country if the sector works with the objective. The president made these remarks in a meeting held at the Presidential Secretariat today. The meeting was held to discuss on how to prepare the plantation sector in the country with the public life returning to normalcy and the opening of the economy. The export revenue of the plantation crops in the country was 538 billion rupees in 2018. Minister of Plantation and Export Agriculture Ramesh Patirana said that the export revenue of the plantation crops expected to be increased up to 753 billion in this year. Preparations have already been carried out to develop the coconut cultivation in the country, targeting the domestic market as well as exports. Coconut cultivation in Palay, Kilinochchi and Mullaitivu in the northern province has been carried out in a successful manner at present. The minister said that steps have been taken further to develop coffee and cocoa cultivation in the country. Meanwhile, the president said that the assistance can be rendered to the cultivations in the country by establishing an agriculture unit in Sri Lanka Army. Steps should be taken to export all types of plantation crops while maintaining high standards and qualities. The president instructed the relevant authorities to streamline the timber exports belonging to the Plantation Corporation in a profitable manner by investigating the reasons for the losses incurred by the Janata Estate Development Board. The attention was directed on strengthening the rural economy in the country through the development of rural cashew cultivation in the country. The tanks in the country should be developed for the promotion and development of plantation sector. A decision was reached to connect Forest Conservation and Land Ministry in order to resolve the issues pertaining to the plantation sector. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that the plantation industry would be an essential sector after opening the economy. He said that each sector should consider on how to face the challenges related to their respective sectors. He said that the country's economic model should be changed as the global economy continues to be severely affected from the disease. The president said that the economy has been managed in a considerable manner. He said that the government was managed to reduce the imports into the country. He also added that on certain days, the revenue in the country has exceeded the state expenditure when considering from the foreign exchange perspective. Secretary to the President Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, Chief Advisor to the President Lalit Veeratunga and Acting Secretary to the Ministry of Plantation Industry Anuruddha Vijayakon were also present on the occasion.
In more local stories, bus and train transport services of the remaining districts, except for the curfew-imposed districts, have been permitted to recommence passenger services from tomorrow in accordance to their respective number of seats. This decision was taken by Minister Mahinda Amaravira during a meeting with the relevant divisions. Officials of the provincial transport authorities, ministry officials and representatives of associations related to passenger transport services were present at the meeting. The minister requested all respective transport associations to commence the transportation services of private buses from tomorrow. Even though the transport services commenced in remaining districts except for the curfew-imposed areas, the priority should be given for the employees in private and public sectors reporting to work. The bus services will be provided for general public only to commute for essential travels. A decision was reached at the meeting to refrain from admitting anyone without a face mask into the buses. All passengers should exit from the back door of the bus while enter from the front door. Disinfectants should be kept in the bus at all times, while hand-washing facilities should also be established at the bus stations. Employees with or without season tickets who tend to travel during using train services will be issued tickets after they produce their employee identity card. All post offices in the remaining districts apart from post offices in high-risk zones will be open to render services, while distribution of letters and other districts except for the curfew-enforced areas will be carried out in the normal manner. The distribution of letters in high-risk zones will only be carried out for public and private sector officers. Central Postal Exchange has said that steps will be taken to distribute letters to the general public in these districts in the near future.
Chairperson of the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, Kimali Fernando, says that she believes that the proceedings of the airport expected to return to normalcy in the month of July. She made these remarks in a media briefing held today.
We are actually looking at a situation of opening the airport. The decision has not been made, but we are planning and targeting July. It all depends on how the pandemic is handled, how now we've opened Colombo, Gampaha yesterday. So we have to monitor this every week and make a decision. Obviously, the Army Commander is in charge with the health professionals, and therefore it is not for me to tell you when it should be open, but my personal expectation is that by July, the airport and the hotels should be open. That's my expectation.
Another 23 COVID-19 patients have recovered from the disease and have been discharged from the hospital today. Accordingly, a total number of 336 COVID-19 patients have recovered from the disease thus far. Meanwhile, Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Jasinghe said that 10 more COVID-19 patients have been recorded in the country today. 9 COVID-19 patients have been identified as the members of security forces, while other patients have been identified as a person directed to the Kandakadu Quarantine Centre. Accordingly, the active COVID-19 cases in the country have increased up to a total of 504 patients so far. Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Jasinghe said that the COVID-19 patients are continuing to recover from the infection gradually. He said that the infections in the country are gradually decreasing and the cluster of infections were identified from Sri Lanka Navy. He said that the spread of the disease has been controlled in a satisfactory manner. However, he said that no case reported in the past couple of days is not an indication that the risk posed by the spread has been completely lessened. The Ministry of Health has indicated that 6 other COVID-19 patients were identified yesterday and have been identified as security force members. In the meantime, 22 patients have left the hospitals yesterday after completely recovering from the disease. The last patient amongst the 7-member family whom were identified to be COVID-19 patients have been recovered from the disease. She is a resident of Puttalam district. Another group of 32 persons directed to Pompemaduwa, Sri Lanka Army Quarantine Centre in Vavuniya left the centre after completing their quarantine period. They are residents of Vavuniya, Anuradhapura and Horupatana. Another group of 50 persons have left the Punani Quarantine Centre after completing the quarantine period. They are students who returned from Bangladesh. They have been identified as residents from Mathura and Colombo areas.
Taking a look at the COVID-19 situation overseas now, in Germany, they reported yesterday that new coronavirus infections were accelerating exponentially after early steps to ease its lockdown. That sounded a global alarm even as businesses opened, from Paris hair salons to the Shanghai Disney World.
Germany is reporting that new coronavirus infections are soaring after taking early steps to ease its lockdown. News that has sounded a global alarm as businesses from Parisian hair salons to Shanghai Disneyland reopen. Germany reported that the reproduction rate, meaning the number of people each person infected with the coronavirus goes on to infect, had risen. This comes just days after German authorities relaxed lockdown measures, and it shows just how quickly progress can be reversed, even in a country with one of the best records for containing the virus so far in Europe. And Germany is not alone. There's been a new outbreak in nightclubs in South Korea, another country that had succeeded in limiting infections. Governments around the world are struggling with the question of how to reopen their economies while still containing the virus. In Europe, the world's worst-hit continents, Spain and France began major steps to ease their lockdowns, while Britain announced more cautious moves. Mickey Mouse welcomed small crowds in Shanghai as their Disney-themed park reopened with a strict limit on the number of tickets. Parades and fireworks were cancelled, and workers and guests were required to wear face masks and have their temperatures screened at the entrance. New Zealand, which also had success in fighting infection with one of the toughest and earliest lockdowns, said it would reopen malls, cafes and cinemas this week. But some countries are taking steps to open up their economies without yet reporting sustained falls in the spread. India, which has locked down its population of 1.3 billion people since March, reported a daily rise in cases. But it said it would restart some passenger railway services, with 15 special trains running from Tuesday. In the United States, unemployment figures released last week were the worst since the Great Depression, and President Donald Trump has been trying to shift the emphasis towards reopening the economy. Many states have begun loosening restrictions, even though cases continue to rise. Back to Germany, and a health ministry spokesman said authorities were taking the rise in the infection rate seriously, and it did not mean the outbreak was out of control.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson unveiled a conditional plan to reopen society, allowing people to spend more time outdoors and back to work from tomorrow, though his attempt to lift the coronavirus lockdown prompted confusion. British MPs will quiz the Prime Minister on the 51-page document, which aims to gradually ease the coronavirus lockdown and take the country to freedom across 3 phases.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With permission.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson set out a cautious plan on Monday for how the UK's lockdown measures would slowly be lifted. The government published a 51-page document outlining the strategy that includes a staged reopening of businesses and advice on public transport and wearing face coverings, as well as a 14-day quarantine for most international arrivals. Speaking in Parliament, Johnson said the government would not be hasty in removing restrictions.
Our challenge now is to find a way forward that preserves our hard-won gains while easing the burden of the lockdown. And I will be candid with the House, this is a supremely difficult balance to strike. There could be no greater mistake than to jeopardise everything we've striven to achieve by proceeding too far and too fast.
The United Kingdom has one of the world's highest official COVID-19 death tolls. And after criticism that he was slow to order a lockdown, Johnson is concerned by the prospect of a second wave of infection. But he has also been accused of putting out confusing advice on the new strategy. Opposition Labour Party leader Keir Starmer said Monday the government had given mixed messages that did not address the public's basic practical questions about going back to work.
What the country needs at this time is clarity and reassurance. And at the moment, both are in pretty short supply. And at the heart of the problem, it seems, is that the Prime Minister made a statement last night before the plan was written, or at least finalised. And that has caused considerable confusion.
The government have also introduced a new slogan, Stay Alert, which opposition parties have branded as meaningless against a virus invisible to the naked eye. Leaders of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have said they were sticking with the original stay-at-home message.
Meanwhile, factories in Michigan resumed production yesterday, enabling North American automakers to bring thousands of idle employees in the state back to work more than 6 weeks after locking down to help control the spread of the coronavirus.
Factories in Michigan received the green light Monday to get back to work. The Midwest manufacturing powerhouse, which serves as a major hub for auto production, is reopening after a more than 6-week shutdown. This is seen as the first major step toward resuming production next week and bringing back thousands of idled workers this month. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has been under pressure to reopen factory floors as other parts of the auto supply chain sought to resume operations. Ohio, another key auto factory state, announced it would permit manufacturing to reopen as of last Monday. And Mexico is expected to make an announcement this week. But all of that was in jeopardy if Michigan dragged its feet, since key parts suppliers for the industry are located in and around the state's auto hub of Detroit. Getting the auto sector back on its feet could help restart the overall U.S. economy The auto sector accounts for 6% of all economic output and is responsible for more than 800,000 jobs. But even as factories reopen, that doesn't mean all those employees are immediately going back to work. There are still the issues of social distancing on the factory floor, a statewide extension of requiring residents to remain mostly indoors, and then there's the big question of demand. With the economy in free fall, most Americans aren't likely in the mood to buy a new car, which should translate to less new vehicle production and fewer workers needed on the factory floor.
Meanwhile, thousands of Swiss children returned to school yesterday, many excited to be reunited with classmates after nearly 2 months' break, although some parents had misgivings.
It's a first day back at school like no other. Thousands of Swiss children returned to class on Monday after nearly 2 months off, a time of anxiety and mixed emotions for many parents.
I'm a little bit afraid because for my daughter it's okay, but for my son, he has some problem with his blood, so I don't know whether or not he get the virus.
Pupils and teachers are having to adapt to new rituals. Classrooms are half full to reduce crowding, and desks are spaced 2 meters apart. Teacher Lauren Meyerhans.
I think we've had our dose of anxiety. Everyone. The pupils feel it too, as well as certain parents. So it's difficult to get back to the way it was. But I think we need to trust the authorities.
Children over the age of 10 and university students will have to wait until at least early June for their classes to begin. Switzerland has reported more than 30,000 cases of COVID-19 and 1,500 deaths. With new infections falling, Bern is taking a phased approach to easing control measures. Shops, restaurants and museums will also reopen this week.
And also in the United States, during a White House press briefing yesterday, CBS News journalist Wei and Zheng asked President Donald Trump why testing a global competition to him. The president answered by saying that's a question she should ask China. After calling on another reporter, Ms. Zheng followed up by asking the president why that response was specifically for her. President Trump has previously made comments regarding Ms. Zheng's Asian American background.
Increasing to 300,000
said many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world, and maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty question.
Please go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay, anybody else?
I have 2 questions, Mr.
President. Next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the young lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish,
okay.
But can I ask you
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, a survey carried out by an Indian news website has revealed that Sri Lanka is ahead of South Asian nations in response preparedness to prevent the spread of COVID-19 disease in the country. The website has confirmed that Sri Lanka has taken the lead within the region in medical infrastructure facilities. An investigative article issued by the renowned The Wire Indian news website has carried out an analytical comparison between the South Asian nations on how they have responded to the COVID-19 pandemic. The study was conducted by journalists Deepankar Basu and Priyanka Srivastava. The article compared the responses on COVID-19 carried out by Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh and Pakistan. Data obtained from many international and many national entities, including the World Bank and the World Health Organization, has been analyzed for the article. Sri Lanka is ahead of the region with sheer number of doctors and facilities offered by hospitals. Accordingly, the website has indicated that the government of Sri Lanka is ahead of the other 3 South Asian nations in response preparedness against COVID-19. The website has also pointed out that Sri Lanka has also been successful in establishing a task force for the distribution of essential commodities and to uplift the economy and the public life.
Meanwhile, the balance of the COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund has exceeded to 902 million rupees. Chief incumbent of the Mangalarama Temple in Thalagala, Venerable Thalagala Sumanaratana Thera, has contributed 100,000 rupees to the fund. Meanwhile, chairperson of the Sri Shantidara Panabokka Foundation, Professor S.K. Panabokka Bhikkhuni, has made a contribution of 1 million rupees. Former Provincial Councillor A.M.A. Manil Bandara has donated a sum of 50,000 rupees, while the Power Guard Security Investigation Bureau has contributed 208,800 rupees to the fund. Meanwhile, KDA Veerasinghe Private Company has donated 50,000 rupees and Skills Development Officer of Gampa Divisional Secretariat Samaratunga has contributed 50,000 rupees as well. A contribution of 73,000 rupees has been made to the fund by Eventricity Private Company, and Lawland Engineering Private Company has donated 150,000 rupees to the COVID fund. Contributions and donations can be credited to the account at Cooperative Branch of the Bank of Ceylon, number 85737373, and more information can be obtained from contacting Director General of Administration KB Egodavella through 011 2354 479 or 011 354 354.
In more local stories, Central Bank of Sri Lanka said today that the European Commission has delisted Sri Lanka from the list of high-risk third countries with anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism strategic deficiencies. Sri Lanka was listed as a high-risk third country by EU in February 2018, subsequent to Sri Lanka being identified by the Financial Action Task Force as a jurisdiction with the strategic AML/CFT deficiencies in its compliance document, commonly identified as the Grey List, in October 2017. Upon listing, a time-bound action plan to address the strategic deficiencies identified was assigned to Sri Lanka. Since the listing by the FATF, the Financial Intelligence Unit, together with the other stakeholders, had taken a series of effective and tangible steps to implement the FATF action plan well within the given time frame, and accordingly, the FATF delisted Sri Lanka from its grey list at its plenary held during the period October 13 to 18, 2019 in Paris. The central bank has said that the revised list of European Union high-risk third countries, together with an action plan for comprehensive policy on preventing money laundering and terrorist financing, will be forwarded to the European Union Council and the Parliament for adoption.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa directs his attention to focus on rapid development of several main cities in the country, including Colombo. The discussion centered on infrastructure and urban development was held at the Presidential Secretariat last evening with the participation of Ministry Secretaries, officials of the entities affiliated to the Urban Development Authority, officials of Road Development Authority, Board of Investments and the Ports Authority. President said that with the resumption of civilian life, it is necessary to accelerate the development activities which were interrupted due to the pandemic. He emphasized the need to initiate new development activities by attracting investments instead of seeking foreign loans. The President pointed to the necessity of upgrading of East and West terminals of the Colombo port immediately. The nature of the mechanism that would facilitate acquiring lands for development projects was also discussed. Construction of houses for low, middle and high-income families will also begin. The possibility of constructing housing schemes with all amenities and renting them out to the migrants was also explored. President instructed the officials to resume all large-scale building construction and development work in the city of Colombo, which have been discontinued due to various reasons, in consultation with relevant parties. During the discussion, a decision was reached to expedite the work of the proposed road network connecting Colombo and other cities. A proposal was presented to use unutilized lands on either side of the roads for eco-friendly cultivation activities. Secretary to the President, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, was also present at the discussion. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education issued a circular today on how to conduct and maintain school premises to prevent the spread of the COVID-19. The Education Ministry statement has indicated that the recommencing of schools, pirivenas, academies and teacher training colleges will be carried out in accordance to the recommendations of the Ministry of Health. The attention of the school principals and academic staff has been directed on 8 main categories to be fulfilled prior to the recommencement of schools. Sufficient number of hand washing facilities with a continuous water supply should be established in the entrance and exit gates of the schools, washrooms and if possible near each classroom. The schools have been utilized for other means during the past time period, then such activities should be completed 3 days prior to the recommencing of schools. It will be mandatory for schools to be clean and disinfected. A suitable location should be established to measure the body temperature of the students. Separate sick rooms for both male and female students should be established in schools to separate sick children from other students. Necessary training assigning responsibilities and awareness on this regard should be carried out for academic and non-academic staff, parents and school community. Plans should be prepared to divide the interval periods to separate students on various time slots and locating students to maintain physical distancing in classrooms and other areas in school premises. School canteens should remain closed until the COVID-19 viral infection situation in the country has been assured to be controlled. Meanwhile, necessary measures to be followed when school vans and school buses commence service have also been included in the circular. Each school should maintain stocks of soaps, gloves, disinfectant liquids and other necessary products sufficient for 2 weeks at all times. This guideline has been jointly composed by the Ministry of Education, Family Health Bureau and UNICEF.
Well, meanwhile, Government of India has announced that all existing visas granted for foreigners except to those belonging to diplomatic, official, UN and international organizations, employment and project categories shall remain suspended till prohibition on international travel of passengers from and to India is lifted by the Government of India. A communique issued by the Indian mission to Sri Lanka has indicated that foreign nationals stranded in India whose visa has expired or would be expiring in the period between February 1st, 2020 and the date on which prohibition on international travel of passengers from India is lifted by Government of India can apply to the foreigners' regional registration officers for extension of their visa on gratis basis. Extensions should be or would be rather be granted for a period of 30 days from the date of lifting of prohibition on international travel of passengers from India without an overstay penalty. Exit to foreign nationals, if so requested by them, will also be granted on the same lines. The visa-free travel facility granted to overseas citizens of India card holders shall continue to be kept in abeyance till prohibition of international travel of passengers from and to India is lifted by the Government of India.
Meanwhile, a meeting between the representatives of the political parties affiliated with political alliances and the Election Commission was held at the Election Commission office in Rajagiriya today. A meeting between the members of the Election Commission was held this morning subsequently, and the meeting between the representatives of the political parties affiliated with the political alliances and the Election Commission was held at the Election Commission premises. Meanwhile, the High Commissioner Designate of India to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bangle, has prayed for health, happiness and peace and prosperity of the people of Sri Lanka and India. The Indian High Commissioner Designate has made this prayer through a video call, each to Chief Prelate of the Askariya Chapter, the Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Gnanaratana Thera, and Deputy Chief Prelate of the Malvatta Chapter, the Most Venerable Nyangoda Vijitasiri Thera yesterday. He also stressed that Buddhism is one of the strongest pillars connecting to two nations and civilizations from time to time when the great Indian Emperor Ashoka sent his children Arahat Mahinda and Sangamita Thera to spread the teachings of the Lord Buddha at the request of the King Devanampiyatissa of Sri Lanka. He sought Lord Buddha's blessings in further strengthening the multifaceted ties between the two friendly maritime neighbors. The Most Venerable Chief Prelate of the Askariya Chapter and the Most Venerable Deputy Chief Prelate of the Malvatta Chapter welcomed the High Commissioner Designate to Sri Lanka and blessed him for a happy and fruitful tenure in the country. The High Commissioner designate arrived in Sri Lanka on May 8, 2020 on board a special aircraft carrying the fourth gift consignment of essential medicines and medicinal items weighing 12.5 tons from India to Sri Lanka.
Meanwhile, Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that the time has now arrived to develop the domestically produced new inventions in order to be protected from COVID-19 virus into an industry. He made these remarks in a media briefing held at the Government Information Department premises. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that the opportunity has risen to promote these productions as an industry in the country to reach the international markets. He said that certifying the standards of the products is an important factor at present. Therefore, he said that the standards of the 11 products including face masks, gloves and sanitizers have been finalized in related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sri Lankan Airlines has taken steps to provide services to passengers who are eligible to travel under the respective country travel advisories to London, Narita, Melbourne and Hong Kong, as well as beyond, considering the reopening of the economic activity in the world, followed by easing of some travel restrictions between the countries. Currently, most governments are allowing travellers stranded overseas to return to their countries subject to the stipulated validity of the respective travel documentation and periods of quarantine. Commencing from May 13th, Sri Lankan Airlines has provided the opportunity for passengers to travel to London and beyond under this special travel scheme. The airline will also operate special cargo flights to 17 destinations, which are being operated by the national carrier to support Sri Lanka's export industries during this time of crisis. The flights to London, Narita, Melbourne and Hong Kong will operate for both passengers and cargo. Passengers who wish to travel using new flights are reminded that they should ensure that they are eligible to enter the respective countries depending on the restrictions imposed by regulatory authorities in each country.
Meanwhile, the High Commission of India, Colombo, has announced scholarships to Sri Lankan nationals under the Ayush Scholarship Scheme for higher educational courses in Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha and Homeopathy for academic year 2020 and 21. According to communique issued by Indian High Commission in Sri Lanka, the Government of India selects meritorious Sri Lankan nationals for award of these scholarships in consultation with the Sri Lankan Ministry of Higher Education Government. The scholarships cover full tuition fees and a monthly sustenance allowance for the entire duration of the course. The scholarship also covers accommodation allowance and an annual grant. Besides, all ICCR scholars in India are provided full healthcare facilities. The necessary details are available in the website of the Ministry of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, www.mohe.gov.lk. For any additional information, the interested candidates may also contact High Commission of India in Colombo through the email eduwing.colombo@mea.gov.in and by calling 0112 421 605 and 0112 422 788. The last date for submission of applications at Higher Education, Technology and Innovation is June 1st, 2020.